we're not actually being hyper vigilant about our board. Maybe we're not being too kind of wrapped up in analysing our directors and how the people that run the club, how they run the club. Maybe that's not the case at all. Maybe it's actually we've got too much of a taste for it. Maybe it's what we did to David Murray. It's no reaction to 2012. It's a reaction to 2011, a bloodlust. Maybe that's what it is. We get accused by opposition fans of letting our club die, and it feels often that we're ready to riot, ready to go on strike, ready to withdraw our support for the club to get rid of any boardroom that isn't supplying us with exactly the level of success that we require. But I think it might actually be the case that we did get rid of David Murray, and he'd won, 16 league titles? He's basically the owner for 16 league titles, I think you have to give him. Umpteen League Cups and Scottish Cups, getting us to our first European final in 36 years, losing that European final to a manager that he'd previously employed at the club, as if proven that he knew the right guys for every job at Rangers. Built the club deck. He turned all the seats blue at Ibrox. He filled in the corners. He got the big screens in. Lowered the pitch up the capacity. He continued the job of Willie Waddle in making Ibrox the best stadium it possibly could be. And basically it got to a stage, a goal away from the Champions League final. We're a goal away from the Champions League final and 9 in a row. We won 9 Scottish League titles in a row. A record that I grew up fantasising that Rangers... But I didn't even grow up fantasising that Rangers could equal it. I remember sitting going through my Marshall Cavendish Encyclopedia of World Football, up there on the shelves behind me, and studying all the other leagues, and looking through all these pages that would give you all the league title winners of every other football nation in the world. And I was trying to find somebody in Europe anyway who'd won their own league more than 9 in a row, so that Celtic wouldn't have a world record, as they were so fond of claiming at that time in the late 70s, early 80s. I think it was MTK Budapest. Was it MTK Budapest or Wisła Pestoza? It's a Hungarian club anyway, Honvéd. No, I think it was MTK Budapest. I think they'd won the league 10 in a row. But I would look at this endlessly. They'd won it 10 in a row, but I'm sure it was the First World War had interrupted the entire Hungarian league season. They didn't play a league for a couple of years, so they'd won it 10 in a row, MTK Budapest, but it wasn't 10 years in a row. So that didn't really count. Of course, latterly, the Baltic State leagues and the Norwegian league at Rosenborg and Bayern Munich, even the Bundesliga, they've all won it more than 10 in a row, never mind 9 in a row. So it's not a record that's prevalent anymore. But at that time, I couldn't believe that one day, 9 years later, I feel like Rangers would have wiped that off the map as being a Celtic-only record. It was our record as well, and to go within a goal of the Champions League final. That moment in Marseille when we're going down the wing, Peter Hoyster just goes on that mad, crazy run down the wing, and if only could have squared it a bit better. Stuart McCall, Alan McCoist, try to get a hold of it, just sweep it in the back of that net, and that's it. We're in the Champions League final, and we definitely played that season every bit as well as Marseille, who we drew with home and away. They couldn't beat us, so there's nothing to say it wouldn't have been us. We had that esprit de corps about us. We could definitely have gone on and done it against Milan, but maybe it was just basically the only thing David Murray could do to wipe out everything he did for Rangers was to wipe Rangers out, and people feel that he nearly did that. He took us to the brink by handing the club over to Craig White, even though everybody at the time, or the more campaigning fans amongst the Rangers support, were wanting rid of Murray for years. So that's maybe we've just got a taste for it. I don't know. I was on Jersnet earlier on tonight. I did a disgusting kind of metaphor, analogy at the end, which wasn't very pleasant for anybody who had to listen to it, so I apologise for that. I'll try and slightly make up for it here, but not really. It's not really much nicer, this wee story, but it's Ronnie Barker. Ronnie Barker, anybody who watches this pod of mine, thanks very much if you do. You're the same age as me. You get my references, don't you? If you don't, just look up Ronnie Barker. Your dad or grandpa will certainly tell you about Ronnie Barker. I think he goes beyond light entertainment. The man was so skilled, but star of Porridge, a fantastic sitcom, BBC. The two Ronnies, obviously, with Ronnie Corbett and Open All Hours. They're the kind of probably the big ones for Ronnie Corbett, and it comes from the age of there only being 3 channels on the television. But he was definitely well worth it. Absolute quality entertainment from a writing as well as an acting point of view. Mostly writing, I would say, from Ronnie Barker. He's a legend anyway, and he died. He died in 2005. I had to look it up because it seems, to get to my eyes, all these things seem quite recent. So it's 20 years ago nearly, but it was 2005. Ronnie Barker died, and what I remember is I was working at the time, this job in the city centre, kind of 95, and I don't know if he died on the Friday, and this was the Friday night, but I think maybe he died a few days earlier. And I went out for a few pints, kind of skint at the time, because my wife wasn't out, so, I was just basically having a few pints after work, and up the road, early-ish, so it wasn't gutted, but at the same time I was just relaxed enough. And I come in the house, and the telly was on. Just sat down, chatting away to my missus. So the telly goes on mute, and I don't want to do the all blokes what we're like. We're from Mars and they're from Venus. I'm not doing that kind of thing. But the kind of social conditioning that applies to a lot of guys of my era sees us unable to look away from a screen. If there's moving pictures, colours that are moving about on a screen anywhere, you're drawn towards it like a moth to a flame. But I'm basically chatting with my wife, but I couldn't help noticing that there was some sort of Ronnie Barker thing going on. There's lots of footage, lots of clips of his great sketches and great scenes from Porridge, etc. And that's fine. I thought it was a kind of more. It looked like it was in one of those BBC studios that maybe the two Ronnies had recorded. The two Ronnies had actually recorded some of the episodes of their programme, their legendary programme, and I thought that's quite fitting. Obviously, they're having something, and everybody's dressed in kind of dark clothing, dark suits. Some of you, everybody's wearing kind of black mostly. I thought, this is, and you can see David Jason, who's co-star in Open All Hours, really, and they played Blanco, the old con in Porridge, but he's up there and he's getting quite emotional. He's speaking to a full kind of audience, really. It's like an evening with, except of course it's a memorial service as far as I was concerned. But I'm talking to my wife about stuff and just kind of flashing back and forth, looking at the screen. And David Jason, you can see he's getting quite upset. He's getting quite emotional. And I think, well, that's fine. That's totally understandable. He worked closer than most with Ronnie Barker. And he just kind of stops, and he's obviously finished his speech. I can't hear it, but he's obviously finished whatever it was he's saying. His wee speech, I thought it was his eulogy. And he turns around just to there's kind of steps behind him up to the kind of podium, and he's obviously going to, and here we go, here's such and such, you can see that and I thought it must be Ronnie Corbett that he's going to bring it now. It was Ronnie Barker coming up the steps. It was Ronnie Barker in a dark suit and, a black dicky, but it was a black tie do, and I was like, he died. It was all over the news. I haven't got this wrong. I'm no that drunk. He died a couple of. It's just that moment, and my wife's going, "What's?" I'm like, That's Ronnie Barker. Did she? What is this? It's a night for Ronnie Barker from 2 years ago. Just repeating it. It was a repeat of a night where, because they're all lovies, they're all crying. Because I worked with Ronnie and he was out and this and that, and he was brilliant. Oh, it was such a moving. Lovies kind of just an excuse to cry. And so, but he's coming up the steps, Ronnie Barker, and it took me. It was the seconds that it took me to work out what was going on. It's like the man they're there to eulogise, who's supposed to be dead, suddenly is walking up the steps, looking kind of frail. And I thought for a second, thinking, is it actually he rose from the dead? Was it a mistake? And they've just knocked together this big evening for him to celebrate the fact that he's still actually alive, despite all the reports, kind of Mark Twain style. It was unbelievable. just that few seconds, and I think that's what's happened. Well, it turns out it was a black tie they're all wearing, the black dicky bows and all that, because it was an evening to pay tribute to Ronnie Barker while he was still alive. A few years previously, and the BBC were running this repeat. But I think that's basically the reaction that the Rangers support have had towards James Tavernier still being at the club. We're having a clear out. We're having a clear. He's the main guy that we all hated. He's the main guy that we blamed for everything. He's still here. It must, therefore, everything that happened at Parkhead, the fact that everything went so wrong at Parkhead, must completely be his fault. This is appalling. This is a nightmare. And I think we just need a wee while to get our heads round it. How you doing, folks? This is your Fat Eck Rangers at Dundee United in our 5th league match of the season. Still looking for our first goal, never mind our first win on the road in what will be our 3rd attempt up at Tannadice on Sunday. Preview pod coming to you in association with Jersnet. It's the Jersnet microphone. Also, I've just been on Jersnet. I've just done the actual Jersnet pod at the Friday night preview pod for Jersnet, so I'm going to try and keep this as short as possible for a wee change for you. But check it out. It's myself and Craig, and we end up going on and on, or I end up going on and on about James Tavernier anyway. So I'll keep this kind of brief. That's another way of perhaps summing up the reaction. I feel it's an OTT reaction towards Tav, and he kind of represents the general mood amongst the support just now. I think most of us are still pretty much accepting of the fact that there has to be a reboot, that there has to be a clear out of the club. And therefore, to have only one player there who's been there for the past few seasons, but he's been there longer than anybody else, James Tavernier, seems to make perfect sense. I think to at least half of the Rangers support, and then you get a few more kind of segments of the Rangers support before you get to the folk who are like, basically accosting James Tavernier outside Ibrox after the game. I didn't even know the team come back to Ibrox after the game at Parkhead until I saw that footage on the Monday. I saw it the day after the last time I've spoke to you here, and they were there was you saw the fella telling Tav he was a loser and all that, and just being generally abusive to our captain, who was kind of half reacting, kind of half letting himself get held back, but not happy about it at all. So that's been unpleasant. That has coloured how we go into this game against Dundee United. But I was talking about that tonight on the Jersnet, so check out the Jersnet preview pod. I'm sponsored by Jersnet, and also by a box set that I'm putting together for you, like a mixtape. American History X. This is all movies you should watch. American History X. This is England. It's Shane Meadows. Watch the TV series. It's sensational. I don't know if you can get that as well, but definitely the film. This is England, the movie, and Claude Lanzmann's Shoah, which for me is the greatest movie, greatest film ever made. People say, "What's your favourite movie?" And you assume you mean something fictional, some sort of kind of, like in my case, Heat. Maybe Godfather, With Neil and I, Three Colours White, all that kind of stuff. But in terms of the most important thing ever done in cinema, and maybe arguably the greatest piece of work of art, the greatest work of art in any medium of all time, for me is Claude Lanzmann's Shoah, which is it 8 hours long? 6. Watch it in 2 parts anyway. I've watched it the whole way through a couple of times. Once you start watching it, you can't stop watching it. But I would say to you, if you're tempted in any way by all the kind of Tommy Robinson nonsense that's kind of doing the rounds again just now, and I say that because I know a few Rangers supporters are affected by it. He's the kind of, that's basically the kind of mufti that you hate. So that's the bad cleric that you hate so much for other communities in this country. But that's the bad cleric for us, for our community. If you want to split us up, and it's not a community that I feel in any way a part of. But I would say that if you're feeling tempted by that kind of stuff, go and watch, I would say, American History X, This is England, and Claude Lanzmann's Shoah. Maybe you can maybe even separate that down into dealing with kind of racism, Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, basically different forms of the same thing. But have a go at all them, watch them, understand them, watch all of them, and if you're still feeling that Tommy Robinson and that kind of stuff is the answer, then come back to me, and maybe we can have a wee chat. I'll try and help you out there. But I'm sickened by all the crap that's going on just now, I can see it's very tempting to fall into that kind of thing. I can blame all that on you, but I mean, anyway, no, I mean, I just tell you so many stories about people that are just so nice, so good, so it's crazy. It's crazy. My name's Alec Anderson, just a country boy who combed his hair, put on a shirt that his mother made, and he went on the air. And he shook it like a chorus girl, and he shook it like a Harlem queen, and he shook it like a midnight rambler, baby, like you've never seen, I've been away for a couple of weeks, same as the rest of us with the international break. I was kind of wanting to get a chance to come and talk to you about Scotland games, do wee pods about Scotland games for, just for something that doesn't upset us as much as Rangers getting beat, as Scotland getting beat. So it'd be nice if we can have a podcast where we're not really that upset, but not upset enough. Off I went to Hampden for the Poland game. I saw Poland at Hampden. With COVID, the COVID season, or the COVID instalment, that was the second instalment, the second edition of the Nations League. This is the fourth one we're in now. That meant nobody got to Hampden for the 3 games we played there: Israel, Czech Republic and Slovakia. Scotland drew with Israel. That was at that point up until last Thursday night against Poland, or Thursday night before last. That was the only Nations League game Scotland had failed to win at Hampden, and luckily enough I was there to see the first Nations League game that we lost at Hampden. To be expected. Now in Group A, got to the top. And Scotland's record in the Nations League is absolutely fantastic. England have been relegated in the Nations League. Scotland haven't. That's because Scotland have been starting at Group C, but we stayed in Group B for the COVID season. We didn't go up, but neither did we get relegated, and that meant I could come along when the crowds are back in the football stadiums, and I could see us in Group B, beating the Republic of Ireland, beating Armenia, beating Ukraine. So I've now seen Scotland playing Group C, Group B, and Group A Europa League, Nations League football. It's nice. I quite enjoy that. I quite enjoy just ticking stuff off. This was Poland and Scotland, the two worst teams at the European Championships in the summer there. The two teams that finished bottom of their group with a point, and the two worst goal differences of the teams that finished bottom of the league, bottom of their group with a point. So this was effectively the 23rd place playoff. 24 teams at Euros, 23rd place playoff, and Poland, they won it. Quite a fascinating thing. This is the third time I've seen Poland. This is the problem. I was complaining, if you've had the patience to watch any of these pods before, the one I did about the Europa League draw for Rangers, I was complaining about the fact I've never seen Roma. And how could every single team in that group is neither a European club finalist or they're a European club finalist that I have seen before. I've got this whole thing that I want to see there's 105 clubs that have played in one of the European club finals, and I've seen 74 of them, or 73, I can't remember. I've got 29 left to see, and I've seen about 76 of them. I've got 29 left to see, and there was about 4 or 5 of them in that Europa League draw, and we, despite having 8 teams, to play, not one of them. There was one I needed to get off my list. It's almost as bad. My second kind of most important list is, in terms of Anorak, train spottery stuff, is all the UEFA nations, the UEFA affiliated international teams. There's 55 of them. Sometimes people just say, I never saw this. That's the thing. I never saw the Soviet Union, so it doesn't even matter. I saw Yugoslavia, but Montenegro is one of the teams I've still to see. So perhaps, and Kosovo. So maybe I could cheekily say I have actually seen them, but I haven't. So I've seen 49 of the 55 live in the flesh. I've only got 6 left to see. Luxembourg, Andorra, Azerbaijan, Kosovo, Montenegro, and Switzerland. And this is like not having seen Roma. I've never seen Roma. I was talking about that. Roma are in that draw for the Europa League. Rangers don't get Roma. Rangers never get Roma. Rangers never even get Lazio. Maybe there's a little bit of a thing going on there. We're not wanting the Bells to go to Rome. But of course, you only have to play a team at home in this new version of the European club group stages. So I was hoping maybe there's a chance we'd get Roma. But no. So I'll never get them off the list unless I actually go over there myself. But Switzerland, I've had a ticket for Scotland-Switzerland. We played in Euro 2020. Sorry, Euro 2008. It's getting hosted by Switzerland. I was already getting to that stage where I thought they were the biggest team that I'd left to see back in 2008, I think. And I'm like, that's terrible. I've not seen Switzerland. And I remember us playing them. I was studying for exams and stuff like that, so I couldn't go at various times, and I was skint, and I couldn't go another time I played in my Hampden, where I was once in my teens, another time in my kind of 20s, and then I was my Euro 2008 was coming up, so I knew Switzerland and Austria were co-hosting it. I thought, well, they're not even going to be in a qualifying group. They're not even going to be any chance of Scotland drawing them, because I might, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to see these teams at Hampden. That's when I'm going to see them. So I need Scotland to draw them in their qualifying groups. And but then Scotland arranged to play them in a friendly, a warm-up friendly. Yeah, beauty. I get tonsillitis. I had the tickets. My mates make me like, I've got the tickets for the two of us, and he's coming from Dunfermline or Linlithgow. And I'm like, I can't go. Tonsillitis, absolutely brutal. And I thought, no, just get in the stadium. So I took the car. I could take the car into town centre at this point in time, and I met Roy off the train. And I can't go for a pint. And I said, that's all right. Tickets. And I'm going to go along here. I'm just going to park. I'm going to go in to the stadium, listen to the national anthem, watch the game kick off, and if I can't, I'll just go straight back up the road, and at least I can say that I've seen Switzerland in the flesh, lining up and their national anthem and kicking up. I couldn't even get out the car. I barely made it up the road without crashing. So just Roy just went to sell. It was absolutely murder, and that's the way it's continued with in Scotland getting into this. The Nations League draw. I knew that was going to be before we went to the European Championships in the summer there. So I know we'll get into Group A. Switzerland are in that tier, that League A, what we call it. We don't draw them. And then we get them in the European. I don't have the money to go to the European Championships in the summer. I tell you what, I went to Nashville this year. And yet, but I've been to Cologne where we actually played them. I've been on holiday there for a week. I've seen. I've been to Stuttgart. I remember stopping at Stuttgart on the train and the way to going to see Scotland are playing Germany at the Allianz Arena in the opening game of the Euros. I went to see Germany in the opening game of the 2006 World Cup. They're playing Costa Rica. I got a ticket for that, but Scotland are playing but there were these different versions of how I had kind of been at these places. But I'd been to Cologne for a week's holiday, and Scotland are playing. They're playing Switzerland in Cologne, and I'm not there. Unbelievable. And we don't draw them in this group, so we're never going to get Switzerland. That's a big miss for me. But I've seen, to draw it in, this is the third time I've seen Poland. All the teams in this group have got Portugal as the first team I ever saw in October 1980. So I was playing Portugal, drawing 0-0. In fact, the last time we beat Portugal was the time we played them before that, earlier that year, in the World Cup qualifying campaign. The previous it was a European Championships qualifying campaign. We were out. Here we are in a World Cup qualifying campaign, which we would progress from to get to the 82 World Cup. And I go along with draw 0-0. I was absolutely gutted that we hadn't scored. But that was the start of our unwinning run against Portugal. That's the first international I was ever at. But I also saw Portugal in Euro 96. I saw them in Nottingham, playing Turkey. Who else have we got in this group? Croatia. I've seen them at Hampden. I've seen them at Hillsborough. The night they beat Denmark 3-0. Davor Suker scores the long range chip against Peter Schmeichel. I was at that game. I was at Hillsborough. It was an amazing night. Amazing. And I also saw them at the quarter final against Germany at Old Trafford. Poland saw them Hampden when we drew 2 each with them in the Euro 2016 qualifiers when they equalised with a car crash for a goal and the last kick of the ball. But I think it's only about 4 minutes into injury time, that one. I saw them in Wales. The first time I saw them was down in Wales at Cardiff, playing Wales in a World Cup qualifier, I think maybe for the 2002 World Cup. They beat Wales 2-1. I ended up, I was in the same hotel as a Poland team. I went into reception. There's a guy standing at the... That guy looks like this big new Boniek. Just a guy with a ginger perm, a bit of tash. But no, not all Welsh folk, they're Celts as well, they'll be ginger. And I've obviously got Poland in the mind, I'm obsessed, like the kind of iconic thing, like a stereotypical thing you'd think about if you're a man of my age, thinking about the Poland national team's big new Boniek. Scored a hat-trick against the Soviet Union in the 1982 World Cup in the Nou Camp. And I was stunned. It was him. I just walked past, see you later, mate. Checked in with my wife. We're going to Bath after that, but I thought, I'll go to this game, I'll go and see Wales at home, mostly that's what it's all about, and see Poland at the same time. That's just who they happen to be playing. later on that night, the whole Poland team are sitting there, and the hotel's got all these pictures up, like the Brazil national team and other national teams. All the national teams go and stay at this hotel that we were staying in. It was Boniek, and I never said hello. I never even got my photograph taken with my autograph or anything. But so this was Poland basically pissed me off every time I see them, and this was special. We played them in a friendly. I didn't go to Hampden, and I think they equalised with a last minute penalty in that one, and then. This one, Poland are the first team ever, first non-UK, non-British Isles team to ever beat Scotland at home in World Cup qualifiers. 1960 or something like that. Back in the day, anyway, late 50s, early 60s. And they've never, this was I think the 6th or 7th time they played Scotland at Hampden, they'd never lost at Hampden. They're the only team that have played that many games at Hampden and never lost. I think Costa Rica played us once at Hampden and won, that kind of thing, but to play that many games against us and never have lost at Hampden, that is Poland. And they did it in fine style. This 2-0 up. The last thing I saw Poland doing European Championships was Robert Lewandowski scoring a penalty for them. There he was doing the same thing against us this night. He put them 2-0 up in the first half. The place was absolutely mobbed with Poles. It's actually quite a nice experience. It's just a wee change for me, because usually I'm going along there to see Rangers. My 7th straight game going to Hampden. And there I was, Poland national team. They're 2-0 up half time, and then Scotland came in the second half in about them, and I saw Billy Gilmour's first goal for Scotland. A fellow Ardrossan man. It was a beautiful moment to see Billy, ex-Ranger as well, scoring for his country. I know he scored against France in that friendly in France, but it's a beautiful thing to see. When he gets subbed off, great to see. I've been at a lot of the games Scott McTominay has scored in of late. Cyprus game, Spain game at Hampden. He's quite the phenomenon just now. I keep waiting for John McGinn to catch up with Alan McCoy's record. I think Alan McCoy's is next to his list at 19. I think there'll be 4 players in front of McGinn and McCoy's joint in terms of international goal scoring. But every time I'm waiting for John McGinn to score another goal, up steps Scott McTominay and just keeps us at 11 goals now he's got for us. Absolutely phenomenal record for the big man. Great to see that as well. We thought that's fine. I'll take 2 weeks. That'll do fine. And then Scotland just do it. It's quite an incredible thing the way Scotland work out ways to. I mean, it's the Nations League. It's basically glorified friendlies, but it has an effect on your qualifying and what have you. We're just trying to stabilise in the top flight of the Nations League, but we could have done me a wee bit of cheering up after the summer, after the way things went in the summer. I'm not completely down on the Scotland team because of that. I think it's so long since we qualified for anything. Need to get used to get back to tournaments, and I don't think Clark can really do much to suddenly produce a whole flock of centre halves apart from anything else. Grant Hanley, absolutely suicidal tackle, and it's 3-2 to Poland from the penalty spot. So the last time I'd seen 2 Napoli players scoring, it was actually 3 Napoli players scoring for Napoli at Ibrox 2 years ago against us. And there's Billy Gilmour, Ardrossan and Scott McTominay are the 2 Napoli players I'm seeing scoring. But that night, was it Piotr Zielinski, the guy's name, that took the penalty, missed it, had to retake it, and McGregor saved it again for Napoli. So this time I've seen different Poles taking penalties, and they've scored the 2 of them, and it's the 3rd time I've seen Lewandowski score. Gave Billy Gilmour a massive personal one-man round of applause, surrounded as I was by Poles at the front of the main stand when he came off, but I also gave Lewandowski a wee bit of applause as well, just because he's a class act, and it's great to see him up close. Great seat had right in front of the main stand. He's right, it was like he's just going to come and sit next to you. But and then I watched the game over in Portugal when lovely Ronaldo scores that winner against us. And I think that's what happens with Scotland when you're going to get beat. You want to avoid taking a tanking in Portugal. That's how it's got to happen. It's not that you're going to lose a goal in the first 10 minutes and never get out your own half and just kind of grateful that it was only 1-0. It's always, but we could have won it. We could have got a point out of that game. Portugal hammered us hammered at the front door. The goalkeeper, Angus Gunn, a character, let's put it that way. Total, he's done it so many times before. We seem to palm the ball into the back of the net. He did the same with the penalty against Poland. 7 minutes into injury time. He did the same the other night with the equaliser for Portugal. I was telling my wife he's going to he'll push it into the net. That's what, and he did it. He just did it straight after I'd said that. But then he was brilliant as well, keeping the score down. So Ronaldo gets another one of his 2 million goals against Scotland, but maybe we'll see him at Hampden anyway. But aye, disappointing start for Scotland, but I don't think they really disgraced themselves, to be honest, and I'm quite happy to keep Steve Clarke just now. Enough of that anyway. We're playing Dundee United it's half an hour already and I've even started talking about Rangers. 2 weeks since I spoke to you about Rangers, and yeah, I feel as if it's my fault. I realised I hadn't changed the calendar that day. I hadn't changed my calendar. It was September the 1st, and it was only later on that night after the horrors of Parkhead that I get through the kitchen. I was like, oh man, the calendar. It was still in August. I changed the page over on one of the old style calendars. A bit gutted about that. I'd also bought a bottle of lime cordial. I wasn't planning to drink too much that weekend. It's not like a wee, soda water and lime. Never a good idea to get something that's that green. Never the luckiest. But I did see that it was the grey and the green bins that were going out last Sunday. The day of the Scotland-Portugal game. And I thought that'd been better. That'd been better if it'd been, no, we call them, your grey and green strips, green hoops. It was a wee chippy comment there. I thought that's like, we're taking out the trash and it's grey and green, but Glasgow City Council probably arranged it so that it wasn't the same weekend as Ilford. They know what they're doing. I mean, they're no, it's like a papal edict, it's like a papal bull that comes for. So they're winning in the superstition front. Yeah, it was awful. It was an awful day, and the reactions have been pretty awful. As I say, a lot of people wanting the manager to go. Even more people wanting James Tavernier to be hung, drawn, and quartered, holding him responsible for everything, getting to the point where he was actually accosted outside Ibrox after the game, even though the game was at Parkhead. A strange move, that one, I find. But I feel as if it's a total overreaction, I've got to be honest. The manager said, he did make this comment, it's going to be October, November. I'm sure he said he was kind of laughing at the time, but it was a few weeks ago, right at the beginning of the season. I think somebody asked him, one of the pressers, pre-match pressers, what can we expect from your team this season? I think, we don't expect to see it until October, November time. He's got a massive rebuild on automatisms. That's his obsession. Automatisms. It's players getting familiar with each other, getting to know their way around Ibrox. He was talking about that again in today's pre-match presser, how it's not just about getting the players in the door, it's about getting them. They need to know each other, how to work with each other. Need to know the environment they're working in. He was enjoying the fact there'd been an international break that lets him, the Dutch fellow we got on loan from Feyenoord Nerai show, Kazan Weirjo, though he called him Nana, which I think will come in handy for a lot of people. That's maybe his nickname, but he says that he's not away in international duty like a lot of the players were over the last couple of weeks, so it lets us get guys like him, acclimatised with a wee friendly against Motherwell, a closed doors friendly. Oscar Cortez played 60 minutes of that. I did all the kind of reaction to the reaction to the Rangers defeat at Parkhead on Jersey. So I don't want to duplicate anything I was saying there, and I was even more verbose there than I am now. So I just basically don't want to go on again too long about it. But for me, Sunday, going to Tannadice, going to be a great test. It's going to be a nasty atmosphere. They don't like us up there. Unlike everywhere else that absolutely loves us, but they really don't like us at Tannadice. They pride themselves in giving us a hard game of late. Even though we've missed them out for a season, the United, because they were down in the second tier. But Jim Goodwin, an interesting manager, had his moments with St Mirren putting us out of the League Cup, and then we gave him a doing when he was Aberdeen manager. He ended up getting sacked there. A tight game against us when Beale was in charge in the League Cup semi-final, went to extra time, etc. It's interesting stuff. Jim Goodwin, interesting CV as a manager. Neither, full on brilliant or full on terrible. So he's got Dundee United going really well just now. They're third in the league. There's only been 4 games played. The league, but we're already, as I say, at a stage where we haven't scored a goal away from home, albeit this is only our 3rd away game in the league, but not having scored a single goal, only having 1 point, and that point came against Hearts, who are on an awful run just now. Although I think we played them before they get involved in European football, which I think is having a real effect on the Jambos, but it's not good. It's not a good record at all, but we have won 2 games, drawn 1 and lost 1, so we need to keep the wins forefront. We need to, in our various columns, we need the wins to be the one that has been registered most often, and I think this will be a good one to win. Dundee are 3rd, they're unbeaten so far. I think they've drawn 2 and won 2. They drew at home with Dundee, they drew away with Ross County. I think Ross County equalised deep into injury time against them. They beat, now who did they beat? I know they beat St Mirren in the League Cup. It was another major. St Mirren again, distracted by Europe just now. They did beat St Mirren in the last round of the League Cup, so still in the League Cup. I think they're away to Motherwell next Friday. In that, they beat St Johnstone on the road, and they beat Hearts. They beat Hearts at Tynecastle. That's it. So they're doing quite well just now. They'll be looking forward to playing us, but I think we should be looking forward to playing them as well. I think this is a perfect kind of. It's enough. There's enough kudos, enough nastiness between the supporters, enough bad feeling there to make this a B. But it's not a derby. It's not a classic. But it's a good game. It's a good game for us to bounce back from, and you do want to see a reaction from the players. That's what it's all about. And I think we have to remember, as I say, the manager said we weren't going to see the best of this team until October, November time. We're halfway through September now, so I'm just looking for us to try and pick up from where we left off against Ross County. I went on at great length in my post-match reaction pod to the Celtic game about how, losing to Celtic, the money they've got, the fact that they have to go down to the 4th division of Scottish football, it's created a real chasm in terms of their kind of secure infrastructure versus our wobbly infrastructure. I don't think we can judge ourselves too harshly on losing 3-0, but it should never be enjoyable. We should never accept it. But at this point in time, where they're just basically topping up a winning machine, and we are trying to completely rebuild the squad. The manager careful to say today that we'd let 16 players go, average age 28 or whatever, and we brought 11 in, average age of 23. And that add to that just the fact that you're having to bring in so many new players and the lack of familiarity with each other. That's obviously going to create a problem at this stage of the season. I think the main thing just now is to what we partly did, I think, with that 6-0 win over Ross County, and to continue this unwanted but necessary part of what Rangers are doing this season. If we are rebuilt, we're rebuilding, But I think we need to make sure, in the best possible way, that we definitely finish second. I know it sounds terrible, so it's not something to joke about. I shouldn't be laughing, but we need to make, in the best possible sense, I make sure we do finish second. Celtic are doing their bit to make sure we finish second. We need to make sure that it isn't any worse than that. That's what I'm trying to say. And I think we need to show that we are progressing. We need to do basically what we did at New Year, but just before the winter break there, last season, we lost at Parkhead a lot more closely than we lost a couple of weeks ago. But we lost at Parkhead. It was a major setback, but next game we were home to Kilmarnock. We beat them 3-1. It was 3-1, wasn't it? Great goal by Seema. We beat them anyway. It was key to us going into the winter break with a sense of momentum that we hadn't left it with that defeat. Now, we haven't had that luxury with the international break. We get cubbed off Celtic with 2 weeks to think about it. But we need to come back now and make sure that we put down a marker in terms, because Aberdeen are going well just now as well, and there's teams who do well at the beginning of the season. I'm looking at the old Alex Ferguson thing. It's not, football has moved on now. You're supposed to, especially in Scotland, if you want to win the league, Rangers or Celtic need to both hit the ground running. But I still can't help thinking Ferguson used to say that thing, Manchester United would start playing, Man United would start really playing kind of around about November, December time, and that was always maintained. The teams that had put a run together kind of over the Christmas period, from late autumn, early winter, into early spring, that was the time to really do it. And sometimes the pre-season training had been so difficult, had been so harsh that you'd been knackered. And I think it would explain a lot of what was going on with Rangers at Parkhead, where we were running the channels, etc. We were, trying our best. We did really well for 11 minutes, and then just ran out of gas. Looked as if Celtic just overwhelmed us. And I think they're at a stage where they're at the fitness they want to be at, and they have been for a few seasons. It's September. It's becoming a thing. You don't wear white after Labour Day. As soon as August finishes, you start getting all the invitations in for Christmas nights out. You try to book Christmas nights out. It's all about Christmas really from now until Christmas. And Rangers are starting to look at the manager. They're starting to question their manager. There was questions about Steven Gerrard 4 years ago. Remember, we beat Hibs. We beat Hibs at home, and Gerrard was gesturing to the crowd, "Yeah, don't dare doubt us. Come on, we're going to win the league for the second season in the trot." And then he went off to Aston Villa. And then Gio comes in and he's great, November almost, but by the following October, it's like this isn't working. This is really, and the same thing with Michael Beale. He's, you know, Clermont is a point better off than Beale was at this time last season. But Beale only lost the Old Firm game 1-0, but he lost it at home. I suppose there was more expectation going into that game. That was a real chance. We should really have. It was a weakened Celtic, a struggling Celtic at that point. When Beale came up against him, he really ruined things for us. But I think Clermont's got a trophy in the bag as well. But Beale had beaten Celtic, albeit a fairly meaningless league game. Clermont hasn't. He's really struggling. He hasn't got a single win against Celtic, and I think it feels like that. He can't win against Celtic. He can't beat Celtic. But I think that's a kind of like the attacks on James Tavernier. He's been there for 9 years, so everything bad in the last 9 years is obviously down to James Tavernier because he's the only guy who's been there the whole time. I think it's too complex. There's too much kind of economics and complex historical stuff going on. Why Rangers on the state they are just now, and I think it's much easier to go sack the board, get rid of James Tavernier. It's somebody to blame. It gives you that kind. It's literally like a witch hunt in that sense of. People just needed something that they could round on and feel as if that would solve all their ills. If we could, I would be up for that as well. I just don't think that James Tavernier is the problem at all. But there's too many things going on. Just I'm obsessed with 2012 and the fact that there's going to be an undertow for that. We will keep having to do this. We're just going forward, and like so winning the League Cup last season, James Tavernier won on the final. It's a little base camp, it's a bit further up the mountain. We're just getting a bit further, just so we can start the climb again. We know we've at least got a camp to get towards. We've been in a European final, we've been in the Champions League, we've won the league title. All these things that were taken off, the kind of the weight of expectations slightly removed since 2012. But we've got to do it again. We've got to climb the mountain of winning regularly, winning successive league titles and trebles and things like that, and it's going to take us a while to climb back up to the top there, but I think that's what we're doing generally, and I think on Sunday it'd be a good Dundee United hopefully have just played well enough this season to make themselves a scalp. It's a chance to put a good marker down, an impressive away win, and hopefully Aberdeen and Dundee United can start fading away once it gets to October, November, the real time, or the time when our team's going to be fit enough to start playing more like the manager obviously intends them to play. We may have to, it looks already, Celtic haven't even conceded a goal this season, never mind dropping any points in the league. It looks like the league's a bit of a dead dodo for us this season anyway, but you never know, it's still quite early. I think we're more looking at stopping Celtic having an unbeaten season, stop them having a 100% record in the league. That's the kind of ambition we're going to have to set ourselves in terms of the Old Firm thing. But I think the most vital thing is that there's no chance we're giving away second place, which still has a chance of getting into the Champions League attached to it, albeit a slightly harder one than previous seasons. What I think team-wise, the manager was saying today that Cortez had played for 60 minutes of that behind doors friendly against Motherwell. Danilo's still out, Ridvan's still out, Matondo obviously out. Danilo's freshly out, he's out the Champions, if only the Europa League squad as well. Bajrami, that's the big news. The manager was talking about who our new 10. He's hopefully going to play 10. He played 2 games, their new signing, a deadline day signing. And that's a major thing. He didn't play at Parkhead. He wasn't involved in that. Not having a 10, a proper 10, I think has been a real hindrance to the game plan that Clermont is intending for the club. But he also can play on the left, and he started on the left in one game and started at 10 in another game of the 2 that he's played for Albania since we signed him. He was overseas briefly for a few hours basically to see Ibrox, and he was back to join the Albanian Nations League squad. They lost to Georgia and they beat the Ukraine. So he started in both positions in those games. But he's obviously going to be up to match speed. And the manager was talking about how doesn't know if he's going to play him on Sunday. He doesn't even know everybody's name. That was his first day of training, was today at Ibrox. He doesn't even know everybody's name yet. It's kind of difficult. I think that was a bluff. The guy's English seems near perfect. Very impressive character in his interview. And I think it wouldn't take him more than a day to to learn. It's like you learn folks' names when you're passing the ball to him and wanting to take the ball off him. I don't think that's going to be a problem. So I would imagine he's going to start. What maybe concerns me slightly is that Ross McCausland, Cortez, don't know if he's coming back or not. Don't know if he's going to start. The manager he didn't really confirm if he was ready to go. He played that 60 minutes against Motherwell behind closed doors, but didn't say if he was ready to go, and start at Tannadice. Ross McCausland took a knock in that game against Motherwell as well, but he should be okay. I think the manager's trying to keep folk guessing about who we're going to play on the left-hand side. Just slightly worries me. The Bears might go absolutely mental if he starts Bajrami, our new signing, this 10 that we've been waiting for. He can play on the left as well, though, so he's going to go on the left and we're going to go with Diomande at 10. I don't think so. The team I would want, the team I would hope for, let's just go for it, get us done over with, folks. Jack Butland, just when you keep Jack Butland goals, I wouldn't be particularly appalled if Liam Kelly started in his place, but I don't think so. Tav is the big talk. People think, is the captain going to play? I think there is a chance he could get dropped. The manager was very nice about him, very stuck up for him in the presser today. Said that the reaction to, he understands criticism, but some of the stuff he was getting was OTT after that Old Firm game. For me, I want Tav to play. I think Tav's, before Bajrami has arrived, hopefully Najim Bajrami can just fit in there and be absolutely brilliant at 10. But I think Tav is our greatest creative force going forward still. If I'm perfectly honest, having watched the Old Firm game back again, I don't think the criticism that he got was merited. He merited criticism, but the level of criticism, even from the commentators during the game, I just don't think was really... I just don't think it was objective at all. I don't think it was deserved. And going forward, he's the guy who's laying on the chances that we're missing, but he's laying them on all through that game against Celtic. So I feel Tav should start, but maybe it's got to him. Maybe it really has got to him. Maybe the manager has decided there's too much baggage attached to him. Perhaps if it had been at Ibrox this game, he would have rested Tav, because the way the crowd could turn if he has a mistake. We're still going to have a fair support at Tannadice, you would imagine, but I would go with Tav. I would hope that after 2 weeks he's got his fitness back to a point, and that's something we need to remember. 33 years old next month, and he had an operation during the summer, so hopefully that should be him back at his, a bit fitter and can go out there and he can lead the reaction to the criticism received after Parkhead. So I would go with Tav at right back, Hefty at left back. He's going to have to continue there, and imagine without any Yilmaz. I would go with Suter and Balogun. I don't want to drop Tav, but I do want to drop proper. But again, he's in 2 weeks taking a readjust to again let Ibrox life bed in, maybe a bit more training. But I thought he was awful at Parkhead. I would go with Suter and Balogun, to be honest. But I'll be completely understanding if the manager's going with him. It means I think the guy's played well in training, etc. So fair enough. But for me, it'd be Suter and Balogun as the centre halves. Czerny, obviously wide right. I hope it's going to be McCausland wide left, even though I know that's not Ross's favoured position, but he has been playing there for a few minutes in recent games. Dessers, I think, is going to start, although Igaman had a very, very interesting 10 minutes at Parkhead where he came on and looked sensational, quite frankly. But I think in contrast to the way the rest of the team were playing, it wouldn't be that difficult to look sensational for us at Parkhead. He came on and he dispossessed a guy, beat somebody else, played a lovely ball at somebody's feet. So hopefully that means he's the new Batistuta. But I have a funny feeling he'll be on the bench. Dessers will start up front. It gets really interesting. I'm hoping Bajrami, as I say, the new Albanian wunderkind, is going to be at number 10. And then, even then, you've got a decision to make. Who are you going to have in the kind of sitting two in midfield? I think Connor Barron's got to retain his place. I would go with Diamande as well, to be honest. I know that they both took a bit of criticism, and they certainly weren't perfect at all at Parkhead and kind of in and out of the game. But I feel as if I wouldn't be surprised if either of them were dropped. But at the same time, I think they provide enough bite and energy, and just I think they have a will to win. I think they will be hurt by what happened at Parkhead, and they will react well to it from what I've seen them so far. But I wouldn't be surprised if Raskan came in for one of them. If Philip Raskan, who came on for about 10 minutes at Parkhead, if he started for one of them. But my first choice would be Butland, Tav, Hefty, Suter Balogun, Conor Barron, and Mohamed Diamande, with Bajrami playing at 10, Cherney wide right, McCausland wide left, and Dessers up front. But that's just me, Who knows what happened? The main thing for me is that we get the result and we show that we're straight back to improvement of our level, getting able to beat the rest to ensure that we're at least going to be not even the best of the rest, but just whoever finishes third is going to change the best of the rest. But we are sure that it's only going to be us that are going to get anywhere near Celtic. And we're not going to fall off a cliff, because this is the point in the season, for the past 2 seasons, the trot, that we've lost the manager. That we've just, it's not working, it's not happening at all. We want to see if it's just a one-off, if the same pattern I'm talking about, maybe the pre-season was too heavy and the players' fitness is yet to kick in, and it doesn't happen. So it has to happen, and it has to start happening to it. This is the kind of game we could lose if things aren't going well. It's the kind of game that we will lose if things aren't going as they should be going. Even as a rebuild, even as writing this season off in terms of winning the league, we should be beating Dundee United at Tannadice. It would make a statement. Look around you at Tannadice, I think. I just look at Walter Smith joined Dundee United, I think maybe the same month in 1966 that they beat Barcelona. They're very, for Jerry Kerr, kind of built up, being the Jerry Kerr stand. If you're a bear going to Tannadice, that L-shaped stand, a very unique stand. Jerry Kerr was a kind of Bill Struth, almost just overlapping Bill Struth's era at Rangers, but he was a kind of Bill Struth of Dundee United. He was the manager there for 11 years, and he kind of set down these foundations for United, where they started to become, having been like the East Stirlingshire to Dundee's Falkirk, they started. The season Dundee won the league, the previous season was the first time Dundee United had finished above Dundee in league football, as far as I can see. And it was a reaction, a bounce back from Dundee with the following season. They actually won the league title for the only time in their history in 1962. But Jerry Kerr got them to a point, United, where they got them into Europe via the First Cup. In their first match, of course, their first tie, they famously beat Barcelona home and away, something they would repeat 20 years later. And that's the same month that Walter Smith joined them. And Walter Smith, why he was so great at Rangers, I think, because he grew up at United. Signing for United is an S form, the old S form, and he was there. He played for Dundee United in the '74 Scottish Cup final. They lost 3-0 to Celtic, but Celtic were in like some. I mean, the Celtic that played something 9 Scottish Cup finals in 11 years or something. This was Dundee United's first major final ever, so it was a high point of their history, and that kind of point in time in domestic history anyway. And then as Walter Smith's coming towards the end of his playing career, he's still registered as a player when Dundee United reached the League Cup final. What was that? Be 5 years later, they reached the League Cup final against Aberdeen, goes to replay, they win it. Walter Smith doesn't play, he's already started to kind of say, he'd been to Dumbarton and come back to United, just winding his career as he took up, his playing career as he took up coaching, but I think he was still registered as a player when they won the League Cup the following season as well. 80-81 season, and then 2 years later United win the league, and there's other improvements going on the ground at this point, because Jerry Kerr handed over in 1971 to Jim McLean, who is even more. It was like it was more like, I think Jerry Kerr was William Wilton, and Jim McLean is the Bill Struth character, if you like, in United's history. Dundee United, the Catholic team for Dundee, Jim McLean for Lark Hall, Tommy McLean's brother. So next thing they won the league title in 1983, 21 years after Dundee had won it. And then 86-87, 20 years after that first European game, they also beat Barcelona home and away in the UEFA Cup, and this time they go all the way to the final. So they've basically, in a 20-year period from their first European match, 20 years later they're in a European final, and they lose that final. But I think it shows, as I was whittering on about to Craig tonight in the Jersnet podcast, it's 20 years for us to recover from 2012. That's my kind of rough estimate. It's a generation. But you look at what we're starting from, old Cleppington Park that Dundee United started at, building up Tannadice. When you look at what we're starting from, the base that we've got, a brand new wheelchair section in the Courtland Road stand. The upgrades to Ibrox are ongoing for generations. 52,000 capacity, state-of-the-art stadium, having already been champions of Scotland, having, reached a a European final in like every second decade, really, in the 21st century. I think we're going to be okay, but I want the manager to prove that on Sunday by beating Dundee United in their Dumpier Stadium in that stupid old stand of theirs. Come on, Rangers.